All right, guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. And welcome to episode 10 of the Breaking Point podcast. We are back once again. So much has happened this past week. The first week of stage 1 of the CDL 2021. But Rostermania is upon us. Drama all over on the timeline every single day. And I'm joined once again by EasyMac and Lionman to walk you through all of it. Check us out on Spotify as well, Apple Podcasts. Down in the description box below. Leave a like on the video if you enjoy it. Hit subscribe on the YouTube channel as well. I think we're almost at 2,000 subs, so that'd be great to hit. And well, let's hop into things then. How you doing, Austin? First of all, been a hectic week. You guys continuing on the absolute reign of terror in the Pro League, 10-0, breaking the record so far of the CDL for series wins in a row. Am I right?
Yeah, yep. Just broke Florida's from last year, but yeah, doing good.
Unbelievable scenes. How you doing, Lion?
I'm just chilling. Give me a second. Continue.
It's all good.
Continue.
It's all good. We can crack right on. So the first thing I wanted to dive into, which is it happened last week, but I don't think our podcast was quite in time to cover it, was the whole CDL Comms video situation. And I don't know how much you want to touch on this, Austin, but it was a very interesting one because the CDL come out with this 9-minute video of some of the behind-the-scenes comms, and I think that there was some things said in there which were strategically related, like to do with some strats. Not an incredible amount of stuff, but there was a lot of trash talk, and it definitely seemed, and this is like Hex's opinion certainly, and when the OpTic guys talked about it, that it was done intentionally to stir up this kind of rivalry drama that didn't really exist because it's just the type of stuff players do anyway. And the players were not happy about it at all. It got taken down it actually took quite a while to get taken down. Like, it was a little backlash initially, and it stayed up for it was almost a day, I think, until it ended up getting deleted. But they did something similar, I think, for a New York series a while ago, but nothing to this extreme. And I guess the question is, are they actually going to go down this route ever again, Austin?
So I don't really want to touch too much on it because basically what you just said is pretty spot on. Obviously, no one was really expecting it, so it was like, as a fan, like, the content was like great. I remember watching it thinking, like, if I wasn't listening to stuff like that kind of be twisted, like, it would be awesome to hear like that side of the game because you don't really get a lot of like the trash talk. But I don't know. It's kind of like you just don't expect it. So as the players and everything on that side, obviously the feelings about it are totally known. So I don't want to rag on them too much, but yeah, it was just interesting how they went about it and everything. But I'm sure you guys probably loved the video, right?
I've never seen it. I didn't watch it.
I'd say yeah. I mean, it was pure entertainment, to be fair. But there was so many people asking me after it got deleted, like, "Yo, do you have it? Like, is it available somewhere?" Yeah, I did save it, obviously, because you know how it goes. But it was, what I find strange about it is like that they don't. I know that if they ask the players will say like no, but there's got to be some sort of middle ground between, I don't know, like some sort of compromise or something that the players can actually come to an agreement with the CDL, because it just looks so unprofessional that the CDL's coming out and making some content, and then the players talk trash on the content, and then the content gets deleted. Like, where's the alignment, right? So, just a strange one.
I think that 50-50 is what they had, like the listenings during the game, and then like the funny videos after. I think that's like a good 50-50. I don't think you need to be showing what the players are saying to each other, hyping each other up before a match or in between maps. I think that kind of like a gray area. I'm sure they're going to avoid it in the future, though. So,
what other sport have they done that in? They haven't.
Well, like in like the NFL.
But they have more like sideline stuff. Yeah. They don't have like behind the scenes in the tunnel before the game, like yelling at each other. Like, they don't have that. And
like, so in the NFL, like you know when you're mic'd up, and you know when they're recording, and you know what to say and not to say. So it's not. I don't know. And like other players know you also are being recorded. So like if I came up to you with a mic, like like it's both ways that you're being recorded. So I guess it's just a learning process. It's a learning experience. So now they can find a better compromise for it, I guess.
Yeah,
they're just pushing the boundaries.
Beforehand it was the best. Like when they were just doing funny moments and like listenings, like I actually enjoyed just those. And then, they were, pushing the boundaries, seeing how far they could go, and obviously went too far. And with Clayster as well, with the comms during the SND, when they were having like issues or something. And then,
yeah, it was like after the Los Angeles Thieves series, the first time when he
when they
like
got
he was getting
3-0'd
annoyed at
really
his
close.
team, and then yeah, that one.
Yeah.
So it's happened a couple of times, and yeah, a little bit sketchy, and not necessarily the best look for the CDL. And some more things that happened this past week, not exactly the best look for the CDL. Let's get into the matches. So Toronto home series, of course, like not like a home series like it was last year, just league matches. You know how it goes. But Series 1 was New York playing up against Atlanta FaZe. This was the first time we'd seen, these teams play, of course, since the past major. And FaZe, I mean, what to say about this team? They lose the search, which is rare, right? They're 12-1 in search, I think, coming into this or something like that. Or somebody on that board, I think 11-1, I think it was coming into the series. And then they lose the Express the first time they play it. But it's like, okay, we don't even matter. Like, we'll just win all the respawns anyway against a very solid respawn team in New York. So, tough to give 2 minute comments on this series, Austin, because once again, not exactly a demolition job. Like, it was pretty tight. It was pretty close. New York put up a good fight, but it never really felt like FaZe were going to lose this one to me.
Yeah, I mean, the hard points were really comfortable for us. The S&D was more of a learning experience because I think we only have 1 or 2 reps on Express going into that. So it was kind of like, let's pick this map. Let's see how it is in a game environment. Let's learn from it. And like, if you rewatch it, we were making like so many clear mistakes, and just different things, like learning different things. Like even the wall bangs we were doing, like the timings just were a little bit off. So like, even though we lost that series, it was definitely a good one to play and learn from because New York's a pretty good team. So it's kind of like one of those heat checks. So when you're feeling really good after a major, to play them first, it's kind of like you're just right back into it. So it was really good to play them and play well right off the bat.
And you still only lost that Express by 1 round. So,
yeah,
it's a good start. And how did you guys think Express was as a map? And
we talked about it after. Like, it plays pretty well. The wall bangs are a little bit nutty. You can kind of wall bang a lot. But, both the bomb sites. The only thing I don't like, actually, now that I remember it, is the B bomb site, the one that's like right in the ticket booth. The offense and defense get to it right at the same time, which I think is an issue because you usually want defense to get to any bomb site first. St. Petro had that same mistake at the beginning. And it's just because the map is literally symmetrical. So the spawn points are the same. The bomb site is directly in the middle, so they both can get there. You notice a bomb site's a little bit over to the defensive side. So I think an easy solution is to move, the offensive spawns back just literally just a tad, so the defense gets there first. So you don't just get a free 50-50 round if you just 4 rush B. That's my only thing.
I felt like that was the thing back in Black Ops 2. I don't know, maybe I'm tripping, but I thought that offense spawned a little bit further back relative to the defense did, which, it's a pretty easy change to make, whereas a lot of the maps, say Garrison, it's not easy to fix that map, and I'm glad it's gone for Search. Like, Express was far and away better to watch, and the thing I love about Express is that when you do get the 1v1s, it's so good. You don't know what's like that. There's just so many cheeky angles and the way both bomb sites can be played. The thing that is quite annoying is how loud it is getting up on the trains. Like, you can just hear everything. Like, if anyone's jumping anywhere, you can hear them do it. There are some spots that if you hit your movement right, you can jump onto ledges and stuff without being heard. So there is actually a bit of a skill gap in that. But I just far and away an improvement. Like, I was really happy seeing it get played. And one of the other great maps we got to see it get played on was a Game 5, Seattle versus Dallas. I'm sure we'll get into that in a couple of minutes' time. But the second series was actually, speaking of Seattle, they played against Florida. This was a weird one because I thought that Florida would come out looking somewhat better than they did, but Seattle, to their credit, actually looked really good here. They finally seemed to piece things together. The ARs and Octane and Gunners were putting on a show this week, and Pristine and Looney really had their moments. Like, they weren't, you know how it is, inconsistencies, of course. But when they turned up and performed, this team actually looked pretty solid. They looked significantly improved. I was impressed and happy to see that Seattle actually do look like a force to be reckoned with, right? Because they, of course, go to Game 5 against Dallas later on in the week, and that was an impressive result from them. So, yeah, Seattle looking revitalized. I'm still personally not sure that this team is a long-term plan. I'm not sure this team stays the same at the end of the season, but I was still impressed by this team line.
Yeah, I was also surprised to see Florida get absolutely smoked straight away. I'm just looking at the maps right now. The maps were Apocalypse and then a triple checkmate. Like, come on. If you're going to like look at maps to be like the worst example of if a team's getting better or not, it's probably that map set. But we did know that Pristini, he's in Atlanta now, isn't he? Yeah, and so he's now got good internet. He's got good ping, and for that series, he had a 1.17. Like, and we're looking back at the last stage, the whole stage, he had a 0.78 or something. And so to see him now putting up numbers is really big for this team. And then looking through the stats, yeah, it's just the whole Florida side just seemed to fall a little bit short. All of them with like a 0.9. Yeah, what do you reckon, Austin? I'm just trying to find any stats.
Yeah, I really like that Prestini kind of like rebounded this week, because what they were missing was a strong SMG presence, strong like aggro presence. And now that he's kind of back in the full form, no more internet issues, because he actually was really struggling with internet issues in the stage one. I don't know if a lot of people knew that, but that was like a large reason. I think he was playing on like 100+ ping on every single series, so it's really tough to do anything when you're SMG like that. So having him now back at full form, that fixes one of the like key fundamental issues of this Seattle Surge team. So I really think they can kind of rebound, because I think they can still be a great team with Looney not performing at a star SMG level, because their ARs are so good. And if Prestini is playing like he was this weekend, they can really still be like a top 6 team. But I don't know if we saw the best consistency out of the ARs yet. That's my only worry, is kind of I just need to see a little bit more against the top teams to push them over that edge,
Yeah, that's probably a fair point. It's a good sign that they're improving. I think the Florida side was interesting because, like, Awakening, every time we go to checkmate search, I expect him to be dropping like 15 kills. It didn't happen this time. He had a bit of a lackluster series, and none of the guys really turn up, and that spells disaster. But later in the week, they did look a lot better up against a Minnesota team we'll go on to talk about in a second, not looking so good. So the next series on the Friday was LA Thieves Toronto. This was the first time seeing the new Toronto team with Insight in the lineup, and what a debut series from him, it's got to be said. Like, especially on the map 4, he went on that 11 streak on the checkmate hardpoint to win them that. And then the game 5, I mean, really not like they should have won it, because Los Angeles Thieves almost threw it away, but Inside dropped 18 kills, right? And you're looking at some of the kills that Bance probably should have gotten, some of the setups that Toronto had, especially that that one at top purple. Like, if it were me, I'm looking at what FaZe do on Miami, and I'm copying that. I haven't seen FaZe do that exact play where 2 lads lay down top purple, and one of them could just get shot from the peak. I'm like, what is going on here? Why are we peeking it so that one of us can just die with no trade? Like,
You're
in around 11. I just don't understand it.
Yeah, you're asking to get cameraed, because you can be seen from the stairs. So as soon as you throw a shoulder, obviously Bance is going to shoot, because if he holds the trigger, great on him, but he's still going to get seen. And then as soon as you shoulder him and see him there, you're just gonna you're gonna have at least 2 guys there, and you're just gonna slide out and be able to camera him. It's a terrible setup, horrible.
Yeah, and I mean overall, like, Inside's 18 kills, almost 4,000 damage, and you lose a map. What's going on?
This was the... Oh, go ahead.
No, all you.
Oh, this was the one series that I actually didn't get to see because I had work. But I'm looking at the stats right now, and for the fact that Inside got 29 kills and Bance got 6 in SMD, oof. He had a 2.07 KD to Bance's 0.38. Yeah, continue. But I thought that was an interesting stat.
That's actually brutal. I don't remember the last time Bance went off in a game 5, or actually, I don't know. I feel like a lot of the times Toronto get game 5 and Bance isn't having the best time. I remember one series I do remember he had a great game 5 was up against OpTic at, this is 3 years ago, so maybe this is going to show it, but up against OpTic at CWL Birmingham 2018, Spice versus OpTic in the losers semis or something like that. He dropped 14 kills map 5. It was on Ardennes Forest. I remember standing behind the guys. I was like, oh my god, Bance game 5 wizard. But nowadays, maybe not quite the case. I think there's been a number of series where you're looking at him and you're thinking, yeah, maybe a bit more production could have got these guys over the line. And the methods change come through for Insight. We've got a slow AR, swapped out for a slow AR. and nothing really changes with the team, right? So it's like, okay, Insight looked fantastic, fair play to him, but at the same time, clearly this probably wasn't the substitute you wanted to pick up at the start of the season if you make a change and your issues in the team are still present, Austin.
Yeah, I mean, to start off, first off, they had Classic and they just let him go. Because like right now, Classic would actually be a great substitute to be able to throw in. But I mean, overall, I kind of like alluded to this last week on our podcast, but I don't think that substitution fixed their issues in the game. Like maybe I've heard a podcast or someone said it last night. Oh, it was Tommy Zuma said that Methods got benched for communication, so maybe that helps in game. But like, there's fundamental errors that you can still see. In my opinion, I don't know if this might be different for other people, but I think Vance and Cammy need to switch roles. Because if you go and look at the series against us, Cammy is very aggressive for a flex. And when you think of Celium, if you think of Dashy, if you're thinking of Illy, and they have an AR, where are they most likely going to be? They're going to be in like a heady, they're going to be on a power position, they're going to be like, letting their team go first so they can slay out behind them, They're using the best weapon in the game and putting up numbers with it. When I watch Cammy, he gets a little too over aggressive. Like against us on Garrison, he had top green control and just slid out of it to challenge the hill. And in my head, I'm like, that's what your SMG should be doing. You should be behind him, like laying down fire. So I think like Vance needs to go back to what in the preseason, he was putting up numbers on the flex. I think Cammy, now that the game's been out for a little bit, he would be really good on the SMG. He's nice and aggro. It would help with the pacing with him and Kleenex. Cammy is a vocal player, so that would help with the SMGs being a little bit too quiet. And I think that would help out a lot, but I don't know. I didn't like this matchup. It was probably the worst S&D I've watched all season, Game 5. Fundamentally, it was horrid. So many errors, so many bad setups, so many, like, what are you doing situations. I mean, and I know 100 Thieves, the coaching staff is phenomenal, and they probably saw that and were having a stroke. So I know, like, that's not going to happen again. And I know Marky B watched it and probably was like, what are we doing, lads? But, like, I saw two people laying down in spots where you can't trade off of each other. Like, if you're going to lay down that spot, have one guy laying down, one guy standing on the ledge behind you, then you guys can battle together at the same time. I saw people not planting bombs after having the bomb site for 30 seconds. I saw slow B plays that have never worked since day one. It was harsh. I would advise you, Lion, to go watch it because it's actually hilarious watching it.
I watched that Game 5.
You will want to, like, put bleach in your eyes. It was just that bad. Like, every round, something crazy was happening that, like, oh, it's a 1v3, oh, and they've thrown it away. 4v2, oh, and it's gone. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't understand how Insight got 18 kills and they lost. Like, did they went positive? Oh, no, they went positive 2 in that map, but they still lost 6-5.
Like, 18 and 7. He had, like, 100 and... What 2 kills did he have over the series? 106 or something? Something crazy?
Yeah.
So,
he was putting up star numbers.
That was their chance, man. That was the chance to actually win a series. Doesn't go their way. The second series of the day was Paris versus Minnesota. And speaking of roster changes, just heard the word that Minnesota have indeed confirmed that Standy, I believe, will be joining the starting lineup in place of Maniac. We'll get into that in a second. But Paris win this matchup convincingly. It was honestly like, I thought Paris were going to win. They come out looking pretty damn good again. Like, Paris are not a team to be underestimated by any means. And Minnesota's woes in the hardpoint continue. You think that sometimes, okay, the major was so horrible for Minnesota, they'll find a way to battle their way back, grind it out in practice, and they'll come back swinging. But it doesn't happen by any means. They just fall completely flat on their face here at a 3-0. And follow it up with a 3-0 the next day defeat to Florida Mutineers. So, this clearly spelt the end, Austin. And I mean, both of these series are pretty tragic, to be honest.
Just because I know we're going to talk about Minnesota a lot after this, I want to give some props to Paris because they continue to play very, very well and, like, shock people. Because even in their weakest mode, which is S&D, they still managed to beat Minnesota 6-5 on Miami, which Minnesota should be a good S&D team. I don't know what's happening with them, but they, like, clear-cut won both of the respawns, which was awesome to see. Aqua with a 1.55 for the series was just frying still. You keep thinking he's just going to kind of, like, XM4 goes down, maybe he might take a hit. No, the guy just keeps frying more. So it's really impressive. Everyone's doing their roles. There's no one on this team where it's like you can single out and be like they could be a little bit better. Everyone's just kind of on the same level, playing very well. And I kind of called this last week too, as I said, like if Minnesota doesn't win this, they're pretty much guaranteed to be in losers bracket unless they somehow shock Dallas or Chicago, which I didn't have any confidence in. So as soon as they lose this, it's just like, well, the stage is chalked. You might as well just figure it out within your internally. So yeah, I mean, at least they found out after match 1.
Yeah, I think Paris honestly is the biggest surprise for me this year so far. The fact that they're so consistent. What do you reckon their biggest issue is, Minnesota, right now, Austin?
Pacing. So there's a bunch of errors within this roster composition. So like Dylan Attach is a really good player, but what's his play style like? It's more of the slower side, methodical. That's why he doesn't have a lot of engagements, but his KD is really high and he's really efficient when he's able to like be that lurker role. He's kind of like Simp that way, where he's like a lurker on the map, strike when he gets the perfect opportunity. And to have him work very, very well within a team, you usually need 2 more aggressive players to make up for the lost aggression, lost pressure that you're having when he's kind of doing his own thing. So it was pretty much just Preston, and then you kind of had Mike and Lamar. And for some reason, Mike is actually a really aggressive player. He has great movement, so I don't know why they were having him kind of sit in the hills a lot. I noticed that like there was one game where Mike had like a minute 50 in hill time on raid, and I'm like, why is he sitting in the hill? Why isn't he just flying with Preston? But it was kind of confusing. So it was kind of like you either had to pick between Lamar and Mike, and to make a change for an aggressive player. So that was their main issue, it felt like, in the response.
I think that was clearly outlined. And I mean, what was crazy is that when they played Florida, this was like, I mean, Sky's had he actually had a monster series, which is a few and far between, but when he does, there's not too much you're going to do to stop these guys. I mean, Minnesota just get completely bowled over. Like, that's the problem. It's not even that their SMG is, okay, yeah, the SMGs are too slow, maybe weak SMG line, all right, we got to figure something out. But it's not like the ARs are not getting bodied when an AR from the other team actually turns up. So, yeah, nowhere near good enough. They do decide to make the change. I guess we'll get into it after we go through the matches. But yeah, I think it's certainly needed, let's say, especially because next week, their first match is like against OpTic. And then they played Dallas on the Sunday. Just like you couldn't ask for a tougher week to play against. And, well, they're going to be going into it with a new roster. Hopefully they get some crazy honeymoon period if they want to fight their way back in the stage. So, talking of Paris then, OpTic played them the next day. This is an entertaining series because after it concluded, the whole fire alarm thing happens, where I thought that, given we talked about the comms thing earlier, Hex was saying on his vlog that they were going to introduce this kill switch to say, like, okay, after the games are done, we don't want the CDL taking any of our comms, that private stuff, so we're just going to, hit the kill switch and it'll just cut out all the cameras. Now, as soon as the game finished, all the cameras went off. I was like, is this what it looks like? But not the case. There's actually like a fire alarm went off in the building and they all had to evacuate, which is kind of crazy stuff. I think it happened like 20 seconds to the end of the final Apocalypse hardpoint. But OpTic look good here. They lose the Search and Destroy and Express. They win all the respawns in a similar fashion to where FaZe won their series. And what I must say about OpTic is that in this new, not necessarily just the new meta, but also the new maps that they have, it's just fantastic for them because Garrison, they can just ban it, happy to ban it, and they don't have to worry about Crossroads. And Apocalypse, Envoy especially seems to be really good at that map. I mean, I saw him play a scrim against LAG and he went 32-4. So they also have a pretty good time right here up against Paris Legion on this map. So yeah, what are your thoughts on this, Austin? Kind of went as I expected to. Express Search and Destroy, once again, the team's kind of figuring it out. But if OpTic are going to win respawns like this consistently against a team like Paris that can certainly win their respawns, scary sign for the competition, I think.
Yeah, I kind of expected a little bit more of Paris. Like, I predicted in our predictions that Paris would win, but I thought, I was just trying to do that because everyone picked Chicago. But I thought Paris was going to look a little bit better in the hard points, the checkmate especially. It was Chicago's all the way. But They still looked okay. They still looked like their slaying power is just gear short of the top teams, which is going to be like their Achilles heel for the rest of the season. But at the end of the day, Chicago just looked really clean. I would take that S&D loss with a grain of salt. It's just like us, where they're just getting new reps into it. So all in all, it was a great series for them to get back into the week as well. Start off in the right gear and get ready for Minnesota next week. So I thought it was really impressive. They came in, did what they had to do, and got out.
Yeah, I don't really have much to add. I think OpTic looked really solid, and they're always going to look solid. I'm just looking at stats. Yeah, it was only really Scump they went negative. If you look at the whole team, Formal 1.19, Envoy 1.18, Dashy 1.12. It's pretty
great control, man. That was the thing.
Always
like the first couple of maps are back and forth, and then Dashy's like, yeah, all right, great control. It's on me, boys. He goes like almost double positive again. Every time I see him around open stairs, I just know he's going to get 3 pieces or something. I swear that's just great spot on the map. If you see Dashy there, it's chalked for the competition. And the final series this day was the first couple of series. There was some drama. The fire alarm stuff was pretty interesting. I thought, okay, that's good enough for a video title. But not just that. We then get into Dallas, Seattle. And this, I think, really was probably the biggest talking point of the week, was that the stream quality manages to keep getting worse. And I couldn't believe what I was seeing, because it was bad map 1. I was like, am I tripping, or is this something wrong with the stream? And I opened the chat. Like, I don't always have the chat open, but when anything interesting happens, I have a look to see what people are saying, and people are echoing similar thoughts. I was okay, this isn't me. I'll try and refresh. Didn't seem to do anything. No one's talking about it. So what's going on? Then it goes into game 2 and it gets worse, and then it gets worse. And then we have a crazy series where Dallas, they went up 2-0, didn't they? Yeah, they win the search and destroy. Illy clutched like a 1v3 or something. They win that crazy rounds. They got up 2-0 in the series. Looks like they're going to close it out. But doesn't happen. Seattle bring it back. I mean, the control, it could have been like the ultimate reverse sweep, right? When you're 2-0 down in control and you bring it back. Gunless goes crazy, I think, especially in the control or in one of the hard points. He went on like an absolute tear. It goes game 5, and it's Express Search and Destroy. Doesn't get any better than that, right? Like, it comes all the way down to a 1 versus 1 as well. Maybe slight misplay out of Seattle with how they tried to retake the site, but I couldn't really see what was going on, right? Game 5, round 11. One of the best series probably of the season so far. And I'm sitting here looking at either a screen which is incredibly fuzzy, or I'm watching an absolute slideshow, right? Like, next slide in the chat, please. So, yeah, I don't really know what happened here. I think the big question mark for me, Austin, would be if they knew something was going wrong, take some sort of technical break, try and figure it out, because, like, I don't know, for a European fan, I kind of want to go to bed early, but at the same time, it's not a good look for the CDL. A lot of people came into the chat, a lot of dislikes on the stream, a lot of people saying this is a bit pathetic. Not ideal.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to be too harsh, just for obvious reasons, but what other esport has these types of issues this deep into a season? I know it was probably something they could have no control over. It sucks. Still would have liked to maybe see a technical pause, see if they can fix it, but there was really nothing. So, I mean, it just is what it is. 2, I think they need to put in something. So if this does happen in the future, like, one of the observers should be recording it from his own POV. So if this ever does happen, at least you can put up a VOD that's not laggy, because this was one of the best series of the week, and now no one can even go back and watch it, which is a major red flag. It's an issue. And they probably didn't think about that before, but now since they have seen it, I would really like them to be able to do that and make that change. So if this does ever happen again, at least they can put up a clean feed that has non-skippy, non-voice, like, just anything. Just put up something so that fans can go back and watch it, because this was like a very, very good series to watch. And if Seattle won it, it would have been Seattle's best win as a franchise in their 2 years, most likely. And that would have been the quality. I would have been livid as a Seattle fan. So it's just, I mean, I'm sure they probably couldn't fix it, and it said that they had to ride it out, but it still sucks. Obviously, a little bit on the game. Seattle, yeah, you had me saying, what are you doing twice? You were up 5-4 in both S&Ds. Obviously, I think the streaks got the best of them, because they were kind of playing towards the streaks in that Express. Octane had 2. He had the artillery and the cruise. and I don't think he got a kill on either of them. I think they misplayed both the streaks, honestly. So, man, like, I feel like it would have been so easy to just on that round 11. You know, you have a cruise missile, wall bang the B bomb site to see if they're coming in. As soon as you get that info that they're coming in, cruise missile in. Like, it would have been so much easier, but I don't know. I mean, I guess it says a little bit about how Dallas is kind of struggling. Their S&D looks weak. They lost the control and a hard point. And in all honesty, you should have lost. Like you at the end of the day, like it's like one of those like it's just a series where you just say we won but we lost, and like it's a wake up call. So hopefully the Dallas we get against Paris next week is totally revamped, out there for blood. You know, gonna knock it out. So yeah, I don't know. Were you able to watch that line?
Yeah, the fact that they lost both SNDs round 11 is just so typical. Like, that is horrible. They won 2 respawns against Dallas. It should have been a series win. Just take one SND, take one of the round 11s, and you're good. Like, if we look, Hook had a horrible series. You're never going to get that. Like, that's just so rare. And the fact that Octane had a 1.27, completely dominated like he did last year, you know, I really thought that they were going to get it done. With the technical issues, like, it started off just audio. And so I was watching the stream on mute, and I was like, this is fine. And then it started the frame rate issues and all that, and then by the end it was just completely unwatchable. So yeah, like, they need to implement a way to use the pause feature in online matches, and if they can, then these issues can be solved. But that was another issue that happened on the weekend as well, the fact that they didn't have it for which game? Was it OpTic versus
Toronto? Was the
Toronto.
big one.
Yeah,
we'll get into that in just a second.
2-0 in control away, and then Abezy fell out because of scan and repair. Like, if they have that pause feature, they can come straight back
Call
in.
of Duty, man.
You know, they still have their progression towards streaks. Maybe you could even pause it when the lives are on like 10-8 or something, and the players just pause in that position. But, you know, this is what it is. Technical issues. COD. That's how it goes.
Yeah, they just go hand in hand, right? I don't know. I feel bad for Seattle. Dallas is an interesting one though to me, because it's a couple of times now. I mean, they went Game 5 against London in Stage 1 as well, and here they are sneaking their way through Game 5s. It's like, you know, right, well, when's this team? They came second in the major. They looked really good at times, but it seems like in the group play matches, they don't really come to play. Like, they leave a bit on the table, they leave a little bit to be desired. I still think that this team will continue to improve over time. This time last season, they were nowhere near the caliber of team they were at the end of the season. But yeah, definitely some questions here. And I think the Paris series will tell a lot, because if they play like they did against Seattle, like, Paris will probably find a way to get past them. So going to be interesting. Then we have the final on the Sunday. It was London versus LAG. This was the first time seeing Paulix in the lineup. Zed back in the team. Honestly, it looked really good. I was really happy for these guys, because they came up with the fire idea up against LAG on Apocalypse. LAG now with this new map set, we did discuss it. The fact there's no Crossroads, no XM4 does seem to hurt them. And here come London. Zed's like 33-19 or something, game number 1. They win the game 2 as well incredibly comfortably on Los Angeles Griller's favorite mode in Search and Destroy, and then they go into control. It looks like LAG are going to take it, but clutch up massively in a control round. So yeah, 3-0 to London after having not won a series the entire season so far. Very good work from them. Hopefully they can continue it going forward. This certainly for London was a series that you kind of had to win. Like, you know, coming into this is the easiest match you're going to get in your group on paper, I suppose. But for LAG, questions, right? If you're losing to London, roster changes around the corner, even though you came top 6 of the major. Certainly possible, Austin.
Yeah, I want to touch on LAG after we do the Minnesota one, because I kind of want to loop those in together.
Absolutely.
Now that we know who's going in and out. But London, I am super excited to see what they came out here with. It was like a revitalized team. A little bit about Zed. That man is basically the English version of, you know, Envoy to me. He's very sneaky, very ratty in how he plays. He helps your main SMG kind of become who they're supposed to be. So Dylan looked like a lot better. Zed played phenomenal. Paul was doing his job. You know, he wasn't too flashy, but he was on the Krieg. He played well. He looked confident. He looked like he didn't lose a step. So that is just all positives around the board. You know, they looked good in all 3 modes. For LAG, it's kind of just like it's tough. And I don't want to be too harsh, but when you have a talent like Vivid, who is progressively getting better as from last year to this year. Last year he was very very good at S&D. I thought he was below average in the respawns, like personally, just because he usually only has one gear and that's fly forward, and it's kind of like the same effect that Dylan has. Is when sometimes you're too far away from your team, you're not playing on the same pace, you're more ineffective than effective with your pressure. And this year, it's like he's learning the speed of the game. The 4v4 suits him. He's playing phenomenally. He's like a terror on the map. So you have such a strong talent. I almost say you just got to make a move to help him, because he could be a part of a winning team. He could be a part of a team that's like something special. That's like a talent that you really like. Your entry SMG is like the first part of the battle. When you find that, then you can kind of piece it together one by one after that. So the LAG was kind of I don't want to say typical, but it was just kind of sad that they didn't put up more of a fight against London. I expected them to be way better against them. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention Shawnee and the fact that he's been one of the biggest surprises this year for me. He's played really good, and he's probably been the only shining light so far, other than this 3-0 against LAG, for London. Yeah, it just looked like LA didn't really show up. I put on them for my pick'ems, and I think you did too, Austin. Like, there was only 3 of us that chose them, and the rest chose London. I was very surprised, and then they come out 3-0, smack them. The checkmate control is pretty close. Apocalypse Hardpoint, what do you reckon about Apocalypse Hardpoint and how it played in week 1? Just to like slightly change topic.
I loved For the Five Hills. I love the majority of the map. I love the colors. I love how it plays. Spawns are pretty good. There's clear routes you can take to flip them. The only thing I starting to kind of question is P2, because in practice, obviously, the break percentages are a little bit different than what we saw in the gameplay at the pro level. And I don't know if that's just us kind of showing off in practice compared to the league kind of on the different level in the matches. But the P2, there is a way to break it, but it is more of a money hill. And I don't know if that's clearly an issue. I don't know how you guys feel about that. I don't have an issue when there's a money hill on the map. It's kind of like, to me, like P4 on Raid. But Raid has a little bit, like, you can go through laundry to kind of get around, where there's no laundry portion of that hill. So there's only, you either hit it from the front or you kind of try to sweep around the back. There is a playstyle to it. I don't want to give away like trade secrets here, but there is a way to do it. It's just harder. I don't know if you guys like that though. Do you guys like it when hills are kind of, a 90% hold percentage?
It's not like terrible. Go on live. I'll make a point after.
So I actually do like when they have them, but they have to be somewhat. The rotation has to be kind of meaningful, and like the way that teams rotate and the way that they hold spawns needs to be key, rather than actually just sitting in the hill and then they can just survive in the hill. So if teams are like playing spawns well, I think it's fine. But if it's a really boring hill, then yeah, obviously it's bad.
I don't mind money hills when it's a little bit later in the rotation. I feel like P2, like having the second hill as a money hill is more of an issue, because it means that initial spawns are more important, and you literally spawn in. It's like, all right, well, one job is not to let them behind us, and that's not the greatest way to start a map. I think like it's better. I'm thinking of a map like Fringe, say, from Black Ops 3, when the money hill over at Granny's was, I mean, it went 1, 2, then it went to Granny's. So like it was like the third hill in the rotation, which meant that off spawn, it doesn't matter so much which side you've got, because it's like, all right, P1 is here, then P2 requires some spawns, but it's like on Raid, for example, when the third hill, which traditionally has been the money hill, this season apparently is not quite the same in terms of the stats over at the garage. But like back in Black Ops 2, that was the hill we're like, all right, we're getting all the time here. And that was the third hill, which I think is a better time. And also basket, I think that's a better time to kind of have the money hill in the rotation. So maybe something to consider. I still think it's a lot better to watch than some of the other maps. So
I will say one thing. So when you do spawn on that good side, it's kind of almost a curse, because you're so worried about P1 not flipping that you don't try to get that P1 time. And it's not easy, but there are routes to take the flip pretty easy on Apocalypse. So even though it's P2, that one side is like the favorite side, the way we've, like in our practice and everything, it hasn't played out that way per se. I'm sure later in the game it might, but That is one thing I noticed is it's not as like if you start on that side, you get that P2. So that's something at least. But I do agree with that.
Interesting to see how it develops. And then, I mean, speaking of Atlanta FaZe versus Toronto, this was one of the more interesting series because I couldn't really believe what I was watching at times. Obviously, I know Atlanta are going to be unbelievably dominant. They have been. This is their 10th series on a row. It's good you guys didn't lose to Paris, I think, because now you haven't lost yet. So, like, every series, the incentive is there. Right, we've got to win this one. Whereas if you lose one, then maybe you lose a little bit of that fire. I mean, just completely smoked him. Toronto, that listening, it was kind of hilarious. It was kind of sad at the same time because they just had no life in them at all. There was nothing going on. They couldn't even be bothered to make call-outs half the time. Like, there was 5-second stretches where no one would say anything, just getting bodied. I mean, it's map 1 against FaZe. This is your chance to prove it against the best. You've got to come in with the fire, guys. Like, even if you go down by 100, you know, it's Garrison. You can win that rotation. If you just nail the rotation from P2 to P3, you're back in the game. But they don't do it. Completely crumble. And then game 2, they go to Moscow. Great map for FaZe, of course. The real moment of the game was when Insight got stuck in the floor. It's like, yes, they were going to lose the series anyway. But are you kidding me, lads? We're now in March. The game's been out for a while. This has been a known issue since release, to my knowledge. It's an issue on more maps than just one. You'll probably talk about the Arsties thing on Garrison in a second, or Austin. And then the game 3, Abezy lags out, and we have no pause feature in place so that we can replay the game, which is super confusing for fans. And then there's a whole discussion as to, okay, he lags out. Do we replay the entire round from the start, or do we give Toronto the round, or what do we do? What does the rules say? Just an issue I wish we didn't have to have, and it comes down to the game once again, Austin.
Yeah, I mean, I was really nervous for this match, honestly. The New York match, I was pretty confident for, just because of the way like the guys were kind of fired up to get back into stage 1 or stage 2. The Toronto one is kind of like one of those dark horses where you kind of can overlook it and then lose because Toronto is not great on any mode, but they're not horrible in any mode. Maybe they're bad in control, but that's the only one. So I was a little bit nervous going in, and then I heard the listen in, and I basically lost all my nerves because that sounded like how you calm when it's like 2 a.m. and your parents are in the next wall over, and you're terrified to wake them up. That was pathetic. I don't know what was going on. I don't know if somebody like accidentally kicked their cat before the match and they were all sad. I don't know, because that was like the worst comms I've heard. And, you know, like when we face off against like any team, I don't want to just say against Dallas or Chicago, but when we face off against any team where it's kind of a hype match, the comms are like 100, like they're really good. Everyone's excited. And I would think if you're going to face off against, you know, one of the top teams, you would be really excited to showcase your skill and what you've grown as, and you have a new substitute coming in, and you would think you would be really high energy levels, and it didn't look like it. You know, maybe they were and they were just really super calm. I don't know. But they came in, and I don't think any map was close. Let me look real quick. But yeah, no map was really close. They played a couple good rounds on Moscow, but I mean, the Garrison was not close. Again, I saw some issues with roles on that team in the map. If you go back and look, their ARs really weren't holding the power positions like they should. Their SMGs looked a little bit inconsistent. And then it kind of went into Raid, too, where Raid was just a bloodbath. I think we won 2 offenses, and the second offense was pretty pathetic. I know we just kind of steamrolled them, but it was I don't know. It just felt like they didn't really want to win. You know, it felt like we were hungrier as a team. As an underdog coming in, I feel like we shouldn't be so much more hungrier than you that we look that good. I don't know.
How
did you probably flattered you a bit?
It was strange. No maps were close, especially the raid control. With the dropout, I was a little bit surprised that they didn't keep the round, but I feel like they would have if it was an internet-related issue, but because it was scan and repair, they kind of went, nah. What do you reckon on that, Austin, about the round?
So I was really nervous because I thought they were giving that free round, because we had just captured, I think, B. We captured the Ring Hill. We had like a 5-kill advantage. in an offense, like that's like a 75% win percentage. We had like 2 minutes. I was really confident we were going to close it out there anyways. Abezy was like 19 and 11, was absolutely putting in an air fryer. So I was really confident, and then he lagged out, and I was just like, we might win this 4v3. And
Honestly,
so,
you nearly did. Like, got
I
out of an
know we had
embarrassment.
one good push, but like
Yeah.
I was actually kind of happy the league kind of saw it at, like they. I don't know if there's one set rule for that because in control, like in hardpoint, when somebody lags out, right, you can't make the score 143 to 115 and put that same exact scenario and replay it, but you can in S&D and you can in control. So like I feel like there needs to be a set guideline. Maybe there is, and I just don't know it. But I was a little bit nervous, but I don't know what the right call there is. If it's not a replay, like I feel like it should be a replay, right? Unless one
Like the
team is
full map or
clearly about the replay of the
the
round.
round, yeah. I think that's
Unless one
fair.
team is clearly about to win, like fully
Same.
capping it.
Yeah, exactly.
Stuff.
If they're about to win, like you go for it. My take was kind of like if you're playing a game battles or something, it would be the other team would get the round. But I think in this case, like let's say it was round 5 and Abezy lags out. It's like you just giving Toronto the win. Like, is that how it works?
Yeah.
I feel like you can't do that. So therefore, you have to do what they did, which is probably the right call line.
Yeah. Yeah, I have nothing to add on that. I think it was probably just the best bit there. Can't even speak. Move on.
Yeah, all good. I mean, and then the final series, LA Thieves, New York. I mean, yeah, all good, all good. I mean, wow. What to say about this? LA start off good, looking strong. They win a checkmate against New York. I predicted them to win. I was like, all right, here we go. I need a good performance out of the boys. They come into checkmate. Great map for New York on the hard point. They win it. They go into a Moscow search. Bit back and forth. New York maybe should have done a little bit better, but okay, they win that as well. They're up 2-0, cruising in the series. But New York never say die, man. I think there's been like three reverse sweeps now this season, and 2 of them have come at the hands of New York. They just never know when to quit. The vibes of that team are so good. Like on the flank afterwards, they're not always good, but I must say, Asim is just always positive vibes. Like he is probably one of the most positive people ever. Like he's down 0-2, he's fully confident that we're coming back 3-2, and that, you need a type of guy like that on your team that is like. He's 100% convinced that we're making this reverse sweep, and that's why you need to do it. To be honest, they were in a close control. I mean, the control was crazy. Clay fell off the map. I mean, can't write it. Game 4 was crazy. I mean, they maybe should have won it slightly more convincingly, but the phenomenal call by, I think Clay was talking about it on the flank, like phenomenal call to give up the P2. I don't know if not if every team does that. I'm sure most teams do that. But there's probably some teams that leave a guy and say, okay, we're going to be 5 seconds from the win. But they make a great play. They all push through. They force everyone they kill to spawn at olds. Great call. They go to a game 5. Clay absolutely demolishes them, gets full streaks. And he basically makes Los Angeles Thieves break up, even though maybe they were going to do so anyway, Austin.
Yeah, final nail in the coffin after this one.
Absolutely.
I mean, Clayster had a very good map, or a very good series. I was a little bit nervous after the first one against us. Their ARs were negative 46 in the series, and then they came out and they were plus 33 in this one. So it was nice to see them rebound because this was kind of one of the teams where some people might have expected the XM4 ban to hit pretty hard because they do have 2 main ARs on their team pretty much because both Diamond and Clay have been main ARs their entire career pretty much. Clay has been kind of he could flex, but Diamond was always main AR, so I thought that might hurt them in this, but they played pretty well. They played pretty well through all the maps. The checkmate S&D was pretty clinical. I did notice a lot of offensive wins, which makes me question a little bit about these 2 teams on defense, but overall, I mean, it was a great series for New York. I don't know. I might have to touch on this in the roster change part of this, but I almost feel like every win that they do get is kind of prolonging the life of this team, like this 4 set together. And when you have Hydra on the bench and the way the points work, I don't know. Like if they keep winning, you got to keep sticking, right? So if you keep winning, is Hydra always going to be on the bench? But it seems like they're improving. They're like alerting. You saw the Moscow, I believe, was against New York or Dallas when Clay was in the back of P3 and he got that one guy and he didn't push up when he could have gotten more kills to spawn him at P2. And then now you see they're making the right play calls and they're learning and they're becoming a better unit and they look more cohesive now. All four kind of inputting equally. So it's a tough call, but they definitely look really good. Really good.
You're on mute line. Apologies.
Sorry, no. There's only been 2 teams that have had reverse sweeps this year, right? New York and...
Yeah, who's the other one that did it? Did Florida get reverse swept by Paris? Or Paris... Maybe I'm tripping. No, Florida got reverse swept by New York. That was it. No, I don't know what the other one was.
Someone got reverse swept in the major, didn't they?
I'm pretty sure that was New York against Florida, because Florida went up 2-0 and New York came back.
That was New York against Florida.
Yeah. So New York, they have this like crazy ability to just switch on, and it would be easy to say, "Oh, it's Clayster and his like aggression and the way that he like flips his team's mentality," but it might be the case. But this team is something that they can just always turn it around, and it's really impressive. I picked LA to win. I had faith for the pick'ems, and the first 2 maps was looking so good. Moscow S&D is obviously, I think, their best S&D. I thought Tej is just like, for some reason, he's been so dominant on that map, even though he wasn't great this
Slasher
map.
turned up there.
Yeah, it was Slasher. But Clay in that game 5, 99 overall. Crazy.
Absolutely, yeah. That was good to get the shout out like that for sure. I suppose let's talk about these rosters in a second, but go on, Lion.
They made it a shirt.
Oh yeah. He needs to do like a fall off the map merch. That's what he needs.
Yes. Oh, that would be a shirt with just like the illustration.
Yeah, exactly the illustration. Yeah, that'd be perfect. Just to get a high quality render of that.
I would.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe we chuck a merch design up on the timeline. I mean, we already talked through some of the series that are upcoming next week, but I mean, yeah, for New York, that's as you just say, they're still winning, and they lost to Atlanta. They beat Los Angeles Thieves. Next week they have LHE, London, and Toronto the week after that. So their life only gets easier in theory. But let's talk about the 2 changes that have just been announced. First of all, the Thieves one, they lose. Maybe they were going to make this change regardless of if they won or lost. But Temp is out. And Venom is in. So this Western team at the start, Porlex is now on London. Venom is now here as well. Very fiery SMG talent. Seems like exactly the type of player they need. Does make me think, okay, Draz is sitting there on the bench, like, what am I even doing? Because I'm such a great asset, I would argue, for that team when they made the change last season. And now he's just kind of sitting there and Venom kind of sneaks in the door in front of him. The roles is interesting because they mentioned in the video the fact that Kenny might actually still be running the SMG here. My theory was that, okay, Temp will go out, Kenny will go back to the flex, and then TJ and Venom on the subs. Maybe it'll actually be Kenny and Venom on the subs and TJ trying to do a flex, which maybe says to me that a one-man change might not be the long-term solution, but it must be said that for Slash's teams in the past, when they make a change, they tend to become pretty damn good. But Slash hasn't really teamed with rookies like this before, so interesting from a number of angles, Austin.
You upline?
That's good.
Okay,
I said Austin, but
it's all good. It lagged for me. Yeah, so I mean, honestly, I think this is probably the move of the season so far. I kind of hyped up Cap, Mud Dog, and Brandon last week when I was just so happy to see them at least assessing their issues and seeing potential fix, and like doing it so rapidly that now no one can get Venom besides them. And how many other teams could use Venom right now? I think that's part of the reason why they picked Venom over Draza. I don't know the exact in and outs, but like Venom has been like a can't miss prospect. He's been phenomenal, hasn't slowed down, has been consistent since day one. Is one of those guys where it's just like you just got to take him, and it's very clear what this team was missing. I do think Kenny's going to end up running back on the flex. I don't see Tej being the long-term solution on it. I think Kenny is much better on the flex. I give it like a couple of days of practice, and they'll experiment and try things out. But overall, this is like an A+ move for me. Like, this is like checks off all the boxes. This is something that's going to make 100 Thieves great right off the rip. This is like one of those rare one-move changes that can really reinvigorate a team, and then next you know you're off to the races.
Yeah. I think they're also going off experience as well, the fact that they know that a one-man move can actually affect the team. Because if we look back in Black Ops 4, they took out Pharaoh, put in Priester, and they're instantly a title contender. And it's also interesting to note that this year, the players that do get brought up aren't really players that have many precedents within the league. It's kind of players that we don't really know their ceiling, but they're playing extremely well in challenges. And so they get brought up. And these other players, kind of like Saints, who have been playing good all Elite Series, and like these players who have been in the league before aren't getting brought up. And I feel like it's because of the way that Simp made an impact in Black Ops 4 and the way that Shotzi made an impact last year. It's these players that we don't really know where their future's headed, but we know that their talent's stacked. And if they get on a team, they could completely change the team's ability. And so I think that's what we're seeing here as well with LA, is that they don't really know what his ceiling is, but they know that he's really, really good, and that he can completely change a roster. And so that's what I've just noticed from this year. It's like a trend that a lot of the players that get brought up are just unknown talents, really.
I think that's what teams have just got to do. Get going, Austin.
Yeah. I will say Venom's, he has been like an elite talent that's kind of been hidden for like 2 years now. He was on our academy team last year. So I was so hyped when he got picked up because, like, as you said, Lion, like, I feel like not a lot of teams do scouting. So, like, I don't know if a lot of teams knew how good he was. But, like, I was hyped when I saw him get picked up because that man has a future.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I know Lion's got to drop off in just a second. Just final quick point on this team, really, before we go on to the other one, and we'll run through it together, Austin. But Slasher, really, the first time he's ever teamed, I was just looking with rookies, pretty much in his career was last season when Draza comes in. And even after that team has success, Josman Hollow, they still decide, all right, let's get Temp instead of maybe one of these hot up and comers. And to be fair, leaving it a couple of months into the season is probably a good idea because you get to see who's good at the start. But I think good to see him. I mean, not necessarily like this was his decision. I'm sure the coaching staff had some impact, but I think this is like a step in the right direction in his philosophy as a team leader. That, like, we can't just rely on players that you kind of know what they're going to do. You need guys that have an uncapped ceiling. And that's why these guys are getting picked up as opposed to your old pros. Because old pros, you know what they're capable of. Venom, we don't know. And I totally agree this is the right move to make at the right time. They've pulled the trigger. They know they're not going to win the World Championship with this team. Someone's got to give. So, maybe we'll say goodbye to Austin now, or to Lion now. Have a good day at work.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us, of course.
Yeah, you're good. Catch you guys.
So Lion's gone, and the boys are back in town. The second change, just announced as of recording this episode, is that Rokkr have also decided to make a move. They've gone for MajorManiak leaving the team onto the bench and Standy into the squad. This is another pretty similar move. I mean, we talked about it earlier, the fact that this team, clearly the pacing has been a massive problem. And standing into this team makes perfect sense. They need a more aggressive SMG. They need Priest supposedly going on to this kind of flex role where he's always been his best in his career. The question I raised when this team was formed, like, Priest on your sub, you're kind of wasting his talent, I think, because like his main strength is being one of the most versatile players, if not the most versatile in COD history, and yet you're relegating him to always using an SMG. Didn't seem like the way to do it. Standy comes in, attached, I suppose, to the second SMG. Questions will be raised, certainly, about the fact that it's Maniac out rather than Accuracy. Accuracy hasn't necessarily been performing the best as of late. We know there's that friendship with him and Attach. That's probably why Attach joined this team in the first place from New York last year. They certainly still want to be on a team together. They've had success in the past. But I'm not convinced that this is the same degree of move as the Thieves move, in that I don't think overnight this team is now going to become, a candidate to win a tournament again. I'm just yet to be convinced.
Yeah, I'm going to start with the positives. You got a actual can't miss prospect in Standy. He's been very consistent for 2 years now in challengers. He's very aggressive. He should be able to slot right in. He should be able to, pick up the role and fly with it. And I think that's great. I think that's exactly what you were missing. I know Brian Saint has been targeting this guy. He's been talking about him since the scouting grounds. He really likes him. He's great. That is one of the pieces. You got Preston now. It kind of frees him up, whether you want him to be the second sub or the flex. I would actually rather want to see him on the second sub now that you put Standy in the entry, put Dylan in that flex role. But you free up Preston, you take a little bit off his shoulders because right now I feel like he's been flying in all by himself. He has no one to really back him up. He's kind of just being put in the blender by himself, and when he dies, it's like the rest of the team kind of stagnates and doesn't know what to do, which is an issue. So they're addressing that. Now I'm going to kind of hit the negatives. I think this is not going to drastically improve the team to where you're winning tournaments tomorrow. I think they took out the wrong player. Even though I think Lamar is one of the best leaders in the league, I think he's a great player. I think Mike would be a top 5 main AR tomorrow if he just picked up the role and had either Preston and Dylan as his flex and then Standy in this lineup. If I told you, would you rather have Mike, Preston, attach, and Standy, or would you rather have accuracy attach, Preston, and Standy? I think most people would go towards having Mike as that main AR. And, having coached, being a part of the coaching staff that was with Mike last year, he is super vocal. He is one of those guys just like Asa, where he's super positive. He's always trying to improve all the players. So, maybe Minnesota's taking this as like they love accuracy's system and how he approaches the game so much that they're just going to go with him. I don't know the real ins and outs of the team. I do think that, other players on the team had an influence on what, obviously happened. But, overall, I'm kind of disappointed they went with Mike. I feel like he's just being scapegoated, on the easier side. Again, after watching his play style for the last 2 years, 3 years, it's completely different than what I'm watching this year. It doesn't even look like the same player, so I feel like roles just weren't working. So, it's tough.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you in that boat. In terms of the pacing side of things, with accuracy as the main AR, there's always the question, the fact that the pace between your AR and your SMGs is just so different. Whereas if Maniac's the main AR, all of a sudden that team actually works for Attach, because we talked about it earlier. Attach has been in terms of engagements, he's the slowest SMG ever. And him in a flex position makes a lot of sense, and he can be really impactful when he has a team designed around him that can help take that pressure. I think last year when New York got good, they had Matt come into the team, added a load of SMG pressure, and that's clearly what they need. But the problem is, you could argue with accuracy still being in the squad, is that there's just too much of a differential there. And I think Maniac deserves a go in that spot, because personally I think he's a really good player that has been great. Last season he was really good and overlooked, of course, because he was on FaZe with the rest of the guys. In previous seasons he's been phenomenal as well. Black Ops 4, he was one of the best players in the year, to be honest. But now he's just looked like a shadow of himself, and I don't necessarily think that's down to him just having dropped off. The system that he's playing under does not seem to be suited to him, and there may be a similar situation to we see in other teams where there's discussions behind the scenes on who should go, who should stay, and decisions being made as a result of that. Friendship League strikes again, one could say. So yeah, next week they play OpTic, they play Dallas. Not easy. And then the week after that, they play Seattle. So all teams that actually been looking pretty damn good. So not the easiest run.
Straight into the blender.
But yeah, I've got to say, excited to see Standy, excited to see Venom in the lineups. It's fun. I just wish there was some European talent getting their chance. We see it with London with Zed coming in. It's nice. Only a matter of time, I think, until some of the European guys get their shot as well. But there's a lot of... It is interesting, because there was some drama this week, right, between North American and European challengers.
You want to touch on that at the end real quick?
We can do real quick, yeah. Might as well just hit it now.
Yeah, honestly.
While we're at it, yeah. Because I was just going to say that, from my perspective, the European guys seem way more mature in the sense that they form a team, and unless something significant happens with the team, they usually stick it out and play with each other, and it's a lot more... it's probably a lot more stacked towards the top end. Whereas in the North American scene, it's all chaos all the time, and there's just many more bright sparks within the North American challengers, but they're just so... It's just all chaos who they're teaming with. So, in terms of actual quality of teams, Like if you put the best European Challenger team up against the best North American Challenger team, it'd probably be a close battle. The Europeans would win. But in terms of like one-to-one talent, it's probably a slightly bigger pool in the States. But it's only a matter of time until some of the European guys get picked up. Hydra, he might get his chance, as we discussed.
Yeah, so I feel like each player from each region is obviously going to say theirs is harder. I will say, if you took the top 8 EU teams and the top 8 NA teams, EU would probably win out. Like if they faced 1, 2 faced 2, 3v3, like EU would probably win it because the top 8 teams in EU have very little roster movement. They're more cohesive. There's a lot of like veteran talent. Like if you look at the average age in EU compared to NA, it's going to be older in EU. They're more mature, as you said, but there's like larger depth in NA. Like I feel like there's like 25 teams that can compete, but EU is more concentrated at the top. So the way I tell people is like to place top 8 in North America is harder, but to win it is easier. Whereas in EU, it's easier to place top 8, but harder to win because once you get up there, it's so concentrated, it's so hard to win. So it's like you can't really compare the two regions. It's so hard because it's so different on each side. I will say there's both like remarkable talent in both of them. Like if we had 20 Pro League teams, I would actually say like there wouldn't be as many bad teams as people think. Like there's guys like I think Orglis is what they call with like Josh and the boys. You could literally slot in as like an 18th team, and they would still be pretty consistent because Josh is a great leader. The talent is there. They're like so. It's really tough to compare the two. I don't know why everyone was so.
It's always like that.
Toxic about it.
Yeah, I don't know. They're just trouble with the time. I don't know really what it stems from more. I can imagine a lot of the European guys are frustrated because with the fact that they realistically don't have a chance right now until they can start to get visas again and get interviews for them and such, like the situation Zero is going through. So probably any small little comment from Pac-Man then sets them off, right? But we can discuss like out of all the players that are in North American European Challengers, which other team should make a change? Because we sit here looking at some teams like Paris looking really good. Like Paris and Up are like, all right, sound. I mean, and LA Thieves, even though they're above Paris, have, for good reason, I think, made a change because their aim is to be winning, championships. If you're not doing that, someone's got to give. The rest of the teams, though, are in an interesting spot because, okay, Thieves make a change, Minnesota make a change. Seattle, still, they're looking a lot better. I don't even know what change I'd make with that team if I was forced to make one because Looney's clearly an integral part of their team. Pristini's been looking a lot better. I think you have to leave it for a little bit, but at least sign a substitute maybe, like get someone who could potentially slot in before they get picked up by another team. And then you've got like Los Angeles Guerrillas. Someone's got to give there, you would imagine, if this continues. Next week they play up against Toronto. Both those teams big question marks, right? As you said, I think the role change with Cammy might be something to consider, especially because they don't have another substitute ready to go. So, thoughts on this, Austin? Like, if there was one team you had to predict to make a change next, I guess who would it be?
So I'm gonna lump like a couple of them together because there's just so many, honestly, at this point. Like, if I'm Toronto and you want to stick European, Omar, this is my friend Nasty. He has been phenomenal for about 2 years now. I would have died to see him in London last season. He would have been phenomenal. He's been really consistent all year. He can literally slot into this lineup, be amazing. London, I know this is my friend Afro and Trey. They should have been in. Obviously, it's kind of hard right now, but they would both be really great players to see in the league. They'd be really consistent, help them build up throughout the ranks. Those are 2 players I would put in like a heartbeat. I think they're both amazing. Those 3 players altogether are probably the EU's like crown jewels at the moment over there. I think there's many more like Gizmo, Bids, Dave. You could literally go on. There's so many good players. For NA, for teams like LEG, this is my boy Tom Gravity right here. Omar, if you could just put his face. This is my friend Tom. In case none of you don't know, because it's really easy to miss main ARs and challengers, he has been top 3. He's been probably the best main AR in challengers. He's been on top teams for the past 3 titles. Black Ops 4, he was part of the team with Phantoms. He was part of the team with Simp, Cell, and oh my god, I can't remember the last guy. Asem. So yeah, that's right. He was top there. He was top in MW, and now he won the first 4 cups with Westar, and now he is back with a completely different lineup, performing just as well with Easter. So, hello,
Yeah.
LAG. Your clear weak points. You know what they are. I don't want to be mean, so I'm not going to say the players, but you know what your weak points are. You have Tom here, who would literally chop off his arm to get an opportunity. He is, the little definition of dedicated. I love the guy to death, and I feel like he's super underappreciated, undervalued, and could literally perform better than a lot of the talent we have. So plug him in. I don't know about you, but those are like the three teams where it's like obvious. And then like Seattle, it's just like you waited so long. I don't know who the next SMG can't miss talent is in the AM scene.
That's a good point. Yeah.
You missed out on Standy. You missed out on Venom. It's like I know I don't want to be disrespectful. I like names off the top of my head are like Pentagram. Saints obviously is pretty good.
Oh yeah.
You have guys. It's just tough. There's not like standout names right now that you're like I can't.
Not like everyone's talking about. Yeah.
There's like royalty, but there's no one where I'm like you plug him into this lineup and they're instantly a top 4 team. Like I would have said with like Venom. So it's kind of tough.
Yeah, I think the LAG pick is it's got to be a matter of time, right? Like, I know you don't want to say the names, but like Cillian Assault won the World Championship in 2018. It feels like they've just been riding the wave as long as they can. Like Silly's doing this whole coaching thing now, which, hats off, right? Diversify the income streams, but maybe it's an indication of like, all right, my days as a player are coming to an end. Assault has not been one of the most dominant main assault rifles so far. I can see an argument for Gravity. I see people talking about like methods, right? He's on the bench at Toronto. Is he coming back there? Maybe not. He could be a consideration. So there's roster moves to be made. But it's got to happen because top 8 make champs, right? And the way these teams are headed is down. And with other teams making positive changes, if you're not, you're really on the horizon for a tough run. So many great matches to follow this week. There's OpTic are playing Minnesota and Florida, Dallas are playing Minnesota as well, and Paris at the start, of course, and you guys are up against LA Thieves. So just I guess to finish off the video, let's just discuss that series real quick. Atlanta versus Thieves. What are you thinking for this one? Because it's tough to prepare, right, for a team that's just formed. You can't really watch any VOD and such. Difficult to have expectations. And clearly you're pretty hot on this new Thieves lineup. Yeah,
I mean, it's definitely a scarier lineup to face, I think. And no disrespect to Temp, but this was like another team where it had like role crises, where I think Donnie was... I mean, historically, when you look at him, you might think SMG, but his best years were actually when he was a flex player. Think of like AW, think of World War II, think of...
Black Ops 4, he was good as well, with Maddox.
With the Maddox.
Yeah.
So that was like his like sweet spot, and he couldn't really find it on this team. But Venom is, now it's tough because now I can't do a ton of like VOD work, but it's also good because now we can just focus on ourselves and play the game that we want to, or experiment on things we want to experiment on. So it's definitely going to be one of those matches where it's more of a coin flip because they should have a nice honeymoon period coming in. The vibes within the team, they're not. I hope they're not going to be like Toronto's, where I feel like the vibes are going to be very, very good coming in. So it's definitely going to be a really tough one. I really hope we take it. We're obviously going to have to rely on the S&D in this matchup, and focus on not making crucial mistakes in the respawn.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's finish it there. Long episode, great episode, I think. Thanks all for watching. Leave us a like, review on all the platforms. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. A lot has happened, a lot I'm sure still to happen, and many great matches once again just around the corners. Thanks, Austin, for joining me. Thanks a lot, of course, who left us halfway through. Thanks all for watching, and we will see you next time.